मनसि प्रतिष्ठिता मनो मे वाचि प्रतिष्ठितम् आविराविर्मयेधि वेदस्य मणिस्थ श्रुतं मे मा प्रहसीः अनेनाधीतेनाहोरात्रान् सन्दधामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु तद्वक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारमवतु वक्तारम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः Om. May my speech be firmly established in my mind. May the mind too be firmly established in my speech. O self-effulgent Lord, be revealed in my consciousness. May the truths of the scriptures come to me. May not what I learned from them ever forsake me. Let me live my life day and night according to their teachings. I shall speak what is appropriate. I shall speak the truth. May that protect me. May that protect the teacher. Om. Peace, peace, peace. Let us feel our true inner self as the infinite radiance that divine radiance of our true nature. I see has spread all over. Everything around, including this body, all the people and things in the room, the walls of this hall, the whole universe is dissolved in this most brilliant and beautiful radiance. I am all pervading. I am light itself. desires, for all is myself. It is peace itself, bliss itself. This infinite, brilliant, all-pervading radiance I see is condensed into the blissful human form of Sri Ramakrishna. His infinitely radiant presence is filling me with peace and absolute bliss. Om. Peace, peace, peace. So, dear friends, let us begin today's discussion of this wonderful biography of Sri Ramakrishna with our usual prayers. They are yet not appearing on the screen. Now you got it. Tava kathamritam tapta jivanam kavibhiriditam kalmashapaham Shravanamangalam Shrimadattatam Bhuvi grananti te Bhurida jana. We were studying the second part of Sri Ramakrishna as Guru. This book, as we have explained a few times before, is not a regular chronological biography of Sri Ramakrishna. It is how Sri Ramakrishna was manifested. The divinity was manifested in the form of Sri Ramakrishna in various moods or manifesting various divine purposes in the life. So, it is very interesting, although not very easy to understand and well nigh impossible to properly explain, that Sri Ramakrishna's life was like a leela, means it is an enacted play, and therefore in the play the identity of an actor uh, for that time being changes, that's all. Actually, the real true person does not get any transformation except for the show. It is if the John Smith acts Othello or acts like something else, it is they on the stage he would be seen as Othello, but he doesn't forget that he is actually John Smith. So exactly like that, Sri Ramakrishna's all these actions were the various acts of this divine play. And this act, Sri Ramakrishna as Guru, in the first volume we saw the principles, that how Sri Ramakrishna's manifestation as Guru was, through what exactly attitude or at what stage of spiritual being was manifesting his nature as Guru. It is not like an ordinary teacher, somebody in a school or in some other location teaching somebody. There are students, there is teacher, and the teacher is expressing the knowledge that he or she has for the students. Here it is a stage in which Sri Ramakrishna was. That stage is called Bhavamukha. Whenever we are studying Sri Ramakrishna as Guru, let us keep this in mind, that the state of Bhavamukha, which is an intermediate stage of relative and absolute, being aware of the divine as well as being aware of this world. And through that, now Sri Ramakrishna is able to impart that divine wisdom, that you also are all actually divine. This knowledge is getting imparted through this border awareness. Being on the one hand aware of the divine, and on the other hand is aware of the condition of sufferings that we have because of our limited understanding of ourselves and the world. We feel, I am this body, and this is the world, from here onwards it is world. But actually that is not the case. And this mistaken understanding, mistaken awareness, this fractured consciousness, I and the world, is not real and is the cause for all unrest and suffering in our personal, family, or collective lives. So Sri Ramakrishna is seeing this, and so out of compassion, he is imparting this knowledge that, see, the problem that you have is that this you are treating this I and world as real. This division is not real at all. This needs to be understood, and Sri Ramakrishna teaches this by showing the that awareness where this division does not exist. So he has both these planes of existence available, and that is why the teachership can function. So in the first volume we had seen that how Sri Ramakrishna's manifestation of this teachership were especially with his own teachers, those who came to teach Sri Ramakrishna. Certainly Sri Ramakrishna learned from them the various ways in which God can be realized, the different spiritual disciplines. Sri Ramakrishna did learn from them. But they also learned the ultimate stages of fulfillment of their own spiritual practice. They were stuck on the way, and Sri Ramakrishna's association made them overcome those obstacles. So that part we saw, and now here we are seeing how Sri Ramakrishna gets associated with various different spiritual aspirants coming to Dakshineshwar where he was living. Without any invitation, they were coming there and getting the nectar of Sri Ramakrishna's these unique teachings would find fulfillment in their life. So that is now being described, and it has been told that although the Sri Ramakrishna as Guru, as teacher, that teachership was always with him. Its manifestation in a big way started after a proclamation of Bhairavi Brahmani that Sri Ramakrishna is actually the incarnation of God. God is appearing in this human form, and therefore what you are seeing mistakenly as the signs of insanity, they are not actually signs of insanity or not signs of any pathology, but it is the manifestation of his inner divinity which is appearing in this human form. So after at that time Sri Ramakrishna was having these many such signs in life, many such symptoms, the odd behavior that he was having amongst public. It was a matter of concern for those who loved him. The owner of the temple, Mathur Babu, he was very much concerned and thought that this is Sri Ramakrishna's sickness. Sri Ramakrishna is sick and needs to be treated with proper medicines. So he was taking Sri Ramakrishna to various well-known doctors of that time. And at one place when a famous physician, Ganga Prasad Sen, was looking at these symptoms of Sri Ramakrishna, one doctor from the east part of Bengal, now called Bangladesh. So was also there, and he was also a spiritual practitioner. So he saw those signs on Sri Ramakrishna's person and declared that this is not any physical ailment at all. This is due to the divine manifesting in human body. That's it. It is not a physical ailment. Treatment will not work. And right at that time, this great spiritual aspirant Bhairavi Brahmani, one who has been performing many different practices, she was really well versed, and so was able to teach Sri Ramakrishna these practices. Sri Ramakrishna learned those things under her guidance. Now, such a person of that eminence is seeing Sri Ramakrishna with the signs that have been described in the life of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, or in the life of Radha in various scriptures. She said this exactly tallies with it. This is not an ailment. Not only that, here is the incarnation of God. And then she gave the quotes from the scriptures as evidence, and said, now all those who were listeners, they didn't have much penetration, much depth in spiritual understanding or in the understanding of scriptures. They might have cursorily read something, that's all. But therefore, this Bhairavi Brahmani, she was called Brahmani, Bhairavi Brahmani. So she said, you can invite all the reputed scholars here, and then I can talk to them. I can prove my point in front of them, because they are knowers of all these sacred texts, and they can understand what I am saying. So, to them I will prove this point that Sri Ramakrishna is incarnation of God. So, it is strange that Mathur Babu conceded to this request, because he was kind of firmly feeling that Sri Ramakrishna is indeed a very holy person, a very nice person, a wonderful devotee, but also has these physical problems. It is not that just because somebody is a good devotee wouldn't have physical ailments, and somebody may still, a person who is meditating and getting a lot of feelings of devotion to Lord, may still have, say, high BP, or may have some indigestions. Various physical ailments are quite possible. In fact, Sri Ramakrishna, even in his later life, we will see that he actually had lot of physical ailments, the last one being the throat cancer, which consumed his physical life. So, Mathur Babu thought that his devotion and all is one part. Okay, very good. But that does not automatically exclude the possibility that he has all these physical ailments which need to be treated. The mistake that Mathur Babu was making because of the lack of that understanding is that the various spiritual modes that Sri Ramakrishna was getting would display certain signs outside, which could be taken as or mistaken as signs of some disease. And the problem Mathur Babu might have by now learned. One thing was that even after the treatment, it was not going. Those signs were not disappearing. So that must have or should have told Mathur that it is something different. So when Bhairavi said that I can prove the point, let us read now here, it is page 549, the last paragraph. That Mathur Babu and others in the Kali temple were not a little surprised when they heard this. Their wonder knew no bounds when the Bhairavi told Mathur, invite the best pandits who are well versed in scriptures. I am ready to prove my position to them. With confidence, she was telling that. This was astonishing, no doubt. Who would be willing to trust the words and scholarship of an insignificant and obscure woman who lived on alms? Like the words of that East Bengal physician, the Brahmani's words would have entered one of Mathur's ears and gone out of the other. That is a way of saying, that when you hear but do not pay any attention to it, that the words entered through one ear and then without bothering the brain went out of the other ear. So means no action was taken, no attention was paid to it, that's it. So like that physician told that this is not a problem, that any disease, but it is some spiritual manifestations. This is the science of some very special, these moods of devotion. So, but when Bhairavi said, Mathur Babu decided that okay, let us do accordingly. And it is mentioned here that this was also helped by masters, that is Sri Ramakrishna's saying this to Mathur. It is mentioned here. Master's eager request changed the situation. The childlike master importuned Mathur, saying, please bring the best pandits to evaluate the Brahmani's statement. The wealthy Mathur thought to himself, I am already spending so much money on medicine and doctors for the young priest. I see nothing wrong in inviting the pandits. When they disprove Brahmani's theory by quoting the scriptures, which they will definitely do, then at least one thing will be achieved. This simple-hearted young priest, that is Sri Ramakrishna, will believe the words of the pandits and become convinced that he has some kind of a disease. He may then try to control the mind. A man becomes insane when he makes no effort to regulate his thoughts and control his mind. Believing what I do and understand is right, and what others understand and ask me to do is wrong. So Mathur saw that there is this chance, this opportunity to show the master that after all, did you not hear these scholars? It is just disease, and therefore don't harbor the idea that it is not a disease. Take proper treatment and you will be all right. This is how Mathur thought that at least that possibility will be ruled out. Many medical tests are performed to rule out the possibility. Some are very expensive, but they are performed to rule out certain possibilities. Although the doctor is seeing that there is possibly, probably nothing wrong, but let us get this test done to be doubly sure. I was told to take an echocardiogram. Now the doctors told that there is probably nothing wrong, but let us get this test done so that we will be doubly sure that there is no problem with your heart. So Mathur thought that, okay, let us run Sri Ramakrishna through this test so that everything will be now clear, that there is nothing that has to do with devotion here. It is all a physical problem, a mental problem, and needs to be cured through proper medication. So Mathur agreed, and although that may require some money, Mathur was quite wealthy to easily afford that. And also he was seeing that otherwise also he is spending lot of money for the treatment of Sri Ramakrishna. A little more, maybe that will convince Sri Ramakrishna, and thus matters would be much easier after that. So he therefore agreed to that, and then at that time he invited two very well-known scholars of that time, scholars who were also devotees and practitioners of various spiritual disciplines. At that time, Vaishnavacharan was well established among the community of Pandits in Calcutta. He had also achieved tremendous fame in other places by beautifully reciting the Bhagavata, a wonderful book. We also are reading that book every Friday these days. So, and explaining it to the general public. So the master, Mathur, and the Brahmani all knew him. Mathur decided to invite him. He also resolved to invite Pandit Gauri of Indesh, Pakuda. Indesh is a name of a small village. Upon hearing of his extraordinary power and erudition. Thus both Vaishnavacharan and Gauri came to Dakshineshwar. Now and again the master told many stories about them, which we shall now relate to the reader, to get some idea of the caliber of these two scholars. Some incidents, some stories of their life have been mentioned here, told by Sri Ramakrishna directly. Vaishnavacharan was not only a scholar but was also known to be a sincere spiritual aspirant. His devotion to God and keen philosophical insight, especially concerning devotional scriptures, made him a leader in the Vaishnava community of the time. Vaishnava means a group of spiritual aspirants who take Vishnu and Vishnu's other manifestations as the principal form that God takes. God is Vishnu for them. It is so. That sect gets called Vaishnava. It is Vishnu is their way of worshipping the all-pervading divine. So here we see thus that Vaishnavacharan is a leader of them because of his devotion, his scholarly understanding and interpretation of those scriptures, and leading the life of a devotee, a devotion. So, that community respectfully invited him to religious festivals and public functions where they offered him gifts and treated him as the guest of honor. Often, Vaishnava community asked him to resolve religious disputes, always accepting his conclusions. Many aspirants went to him for proper guidance in their spiritual disciplines and then proceeded as he advised. So it was not strange that Mathur decided to bring Vaishnavacharan to ascertain whether the excessive devotion or some physical disease was causing the master's ecstasy. The ecstasy was quite visible, there was no doubt about it. Master was having very abnormal expressions, ecstasy, going into suddenly some kind of a different awareness and different bodily responses. The body would become sometimes very still. You can imagine, that suppose you see something like that, how shocked you will be. That somebody suddenly, while speaking like a common normal person, would just and start shaking the body, or just fall down in unconscious, and then again will behave as a normal person as if nothing has happened. So it is certainly very strange, very difficult to uh, assimilate in one's day-to-day living. If such a person is there, you are always worried what will be then happen next time. It is so you are concerned that let this be somehow cured, let that person be normal. Maybe he is getting fits. It is apoplexy, something like that, and thus they want a cure to be effected. So, therefore, it was thought that this expert in scriptural discussions, Vaishnavacharan, let him come and see these ecstatic moods or such things, and then we will take the matter from there, that yes, whatever he says. He also decided to bring another Pandit. In the meantime, the Brahmani was excited by her discovery of additional evidence that her evaluation of Master's condition was correct. Her discovery surprised others greatly. Sometime before the Brahmani's arrival, the Master suffered terribly from a burning sensation all over his body. He underwent various treatments to no effect. It is body is having this terrible burning sensation. That burning is all over, you feel that sensation, it is becoming red. That people were able to see that how this burning sensation is, and they therefore thought that he should be treated properly. Now the reason could be something else. Many times they symptoms that apparently what you see may not for a common person indicate the exact disease that is behind it. For example, it is seen. I myself used to wonder how it happens that if somebody gets that disease, malaria, you must have heard the name, although not very common in US, very rampant in India and other that tropical regions. Malaria, one gets fever, and then one feels because of that infection terrible cold, starts shivering with cold, and so you naturally feel that okay, take one more blanket on your body, put on a sweater, take blanket, take a comforter, or let me put some heater near you. Although others are healthy, people are actually feeling it very warm outside, not anywhere close to cold. They are feeling rather, sometimes I was feeling cold because of that infection, shivering, whereas the others were finding it so warm. They had put on the fans and coolers, and but I am feeling so cold. I would tell them, switch off this fan, I can't bear, it is so cold. They would do that. Not only that, I would take lot of covers on the body. Still that cold would not go, because it is not an external cold at all. It is a sensation in the brain generated by that disease. So you feel cold because it is a sensation that is generated by the disease. It has nothing to do with either temperature of the body or the temperature of the outer surroundings. So what I mean is that seeing the symptom, one may go to give some treatment which may be completely out of place. It is the symptoms are one, but the cause of the symptom has to be probed. So when this burning sensation, commonly what would happen is something gone wrong with the body. Let the doctor diagnose and give the treatment, and several treatments were given, nothing was working. So this was what was happening when that it is her discovery surprised others greatly. Sometimes before the Brahmani's arrival, the master suffered terribly from a burning sensation all over his body. He underwent various treatments to no effect. The master told us that the burning would start at sunrise and increase steadily as the day advanced. By noon it would become so unbearable that he would immerse himself in the waters of the Ganges for 2 or 3 hours with a wet towel over his head. Fearing that he might develop a cold or other difficulties because of his lengthy immersion, he would come out of the water unwillingly. Then he would go to Mathur's bungalow, wipe the marble floor in one of his rooms with a wet towel, close the doors and windows, and roll on the floor. When the Brahmani learned of Master's physical difficulty, she formed a novel opinion about it. She said it was not a disease, it appeared as a result of the Master's spiritual awakening or his intense love for God. Such physical signs had also appeared in Radha and Chaitanya, caused by their excessive longing for God realization. The treatment for this condition was extraordinary. One was to wear a garland of fragrant flowers and cover the entire body with scented sandal paste. Now, naturally, who is going to, believe this? But again, there is no harm. So, anyway, the disease was not going. So, let us try this. Many things have been tried, and let us try this as well. So, Mathur and the others could not control their laughter when they heard the Brahmani's diagnosis of the disease. They did not believe her at all and thought to themselves, the young priest, that is Sri Ramakrishna, has taken so many medicines and has used Mahanarayana, Vishnu and other medicated oils, and his illness has still not abated. Now the Brahmani says that it is not a disease at all. But no one raised any objection to the masters receiving the simple treatment prescribed by the Brahmani. If there was no result after a couple of days, the patient would give it up himself. So according to Brahmani's instruction, the master's body was smeared with sandal paste and a garland was placed around his neck. After 3 days, the master's burning sensation disappeared completely. Everyone was dumbfounded, but the doubt of the skeptical mind does not leave so easily. The skepticism is there, Oh, it might have happened, but it might have been coincidence. The disease was already going, the medicines take some time to act, so the disease was anyway going, and now they applied the sandal paste and all that. That really didn't work. The skeptic mind would say that like that, and sometimes it is true also that it is this some skeptics. And now this is a incident quite well known in our annals here, that one of our Swami, he used to be in Berkeley, California. So I went to see him in 2010, and because we all heard that he has been pronounced in the late stage of intestinal cancer, and doctor has given only 4 weeks to live. Then he came from the hospital. He said, if I am to die, why die in the hospital? I will die in the monastery. So he came back, and then he started some this Chinese medication. It is just not even medication. That doctor would say it is not medication. It is just your diet restrictions, proper diet, that's it. And some herbal these supplements, that's it. So he had put this Swami under strict diet regimen. So, and after a few days, when I came back, I asked that how is the Swami feeling now? And his attendant told, surprisingly, he is getting better. In 6 months, he completely recovered. In fact, he came here for the temple inauguration ceremony in 2012. And he is still alive. He is quite healthy. And his age is something like, I don't exactly know, but about 86, 87, something of that type. So he has traveled to India in between several times, and so is quite healthy. So when this was pointed out to some doctors that this medication, some other swamis of our order also therefore suffering from cancer took the same treatment, and they all were, their cancer was arrested. So, but there are some skeptics, they said, that is, that treatment has nothing to do with it. Many times it is seen that the cancer gets reversed on its own. So that must be one of those cases. Why attribute it to some medication? So when Sri Ramakrishna started feeling better, some skeptics said, oh, that is just because of that, it is that the skeptics commented, this is nothing but coincidence. According to the physician, the Vishnu oil that the young priest used last time was genuine. That medicated oil was working, and after a couple of days he would have been free of the burning pain even without that Brahmani's sandal paste treatment. Regardless of what the Brahmani says or prescribes, the young priest should continue to use the Vishnu oil. So they said that it is this particular oil that was the reason for the cure, that medication. But Brahmani's treatment, it has nothing to do with that curative effect. Some days later, the master developed another problem. The master told us that this one was also cured within 3 days by following the Brahmani's simple instructions. The master said, I was seized with a ravenous appetite that no amount of food could satisfy. The desire to eat a lot. Now it is not easy to see why this appetite came as a sign of some divine manifestation. It could be thought of or interpreted as when you feel that you are the pure self, you are divine, you see the same self in everyone, yourself and the self of all. So now whatever you eat it with the feeling that everybody is eating through this mouth. So it therefore becomes a huge intake. So this is one of the interpretations, that lot of food need to be taken and it wouldn't go away. So no sooner had I eaten something than I would feel hungry again. Day and night my mind was possessed by one thought alone, what to eat. And And then I pondered, what kind of disease is this? When I described it to the Brahmani, she replied, "My son, don't worry. The scriptures explain that those who advance on the path of spirituality pass through such abnormal states. Wait, I shall cure it." She was telling with that confidence because she knew that what it is. She asked Mathur to supply various kinds of food, from flattened rice and sugar coated parched rice to sandesh, that is a milk made mishti, that's sweet, rasgulla, luchi, and other delicacies, and stack it all in a room. She then told me, "My son, stay in the room day and night and eat whenever and whatever you like." I remained in that room and walked around, touching different foods. Every now and then I would taste one item or another, according to my fancy. In this way, 3 days passed. That strange hunger and the desire for food left me, and I was relieved. So these were some of these things that Brahmani demonstrated to others, that look, this is not a regular disease at all. We have learned that such inordinate hunger appears before the mind of an aspirant has become absorbed and settled naturally in yoga or God. And sometimes after that, we ourselves were amazed when we witnessed this phenomena in later days, though it took a slightly different form. Later in the Master's life, he did not suffer from the kind of continuous inordinate hunger that we just described, but we did see that when he was in an ecstatic mood, he would eat four or more times his normal quantity of food without experiencing any stomach trouble. That is something to be noted, if it is just eating, a normal person is supposed to say eating all put together maybe 2 ounces of food, 4 ounces food, and then suddenly eats 5 pounds. The stomach will just get so upset. The whole digestion process will be haywire. So that would be the effect. But in Master's case, and this is what the writer also has witnessed himself, that at certain times the hunger would go so much, and he would eat that 4 or 5 times the food that he would normally take without having any reaction in the digestion. So that it is, he will be giving some such examples even in the later days. The examples are such that these examples are later, that the author himself has witnessed. So, and then they will be given. Our time for today is almost over. So, we will stop here, meditate for half a minute, and then just in case if you have any questions, we can take up them for a short discussion. Yes, please. Any question?
Yeah, Swamiji. Yeah, there are two web questions. The first one is from Charles. You said that Thakur came to show us that we are divine. But I am told he came for dualists too. What did he
He
have
came
to
for
dualist?
dualists.
Yeah. But I am told he came for dualists too. What did he have to tell them?
Oh, you know, Sri Ramakrishna came to show that we are divine. His basis of his teaching was this non-duality. It is his saying is very famous to others that you tie the knowledge of non-duality to your cloth that you are wearing, and then do whatever you want. That non-duality is the goal. The duality that is being mentioned, he did not shun dualists. The important is this part that the word dualist is used in various different ways. The one that is used as an aspect of Vedanta. In Vedanta, we have three prominent schools: the non dualism, qualified non dualism, and the dualism. All three are really the variations of non dualism. They differ only in respect of explaining this world. Let us remember that it is none of them is the dualist like the Sankhya dualist philosophy, where there are two absolute principles, the conscious principle Purusha, and then the inert principle, the Prakriti. That is a hardcore dualism. In Vedanta, in any of these schools, dualism or qualified non-dualism or non-dualism, the assertion of all the three is there is one ultimate independent reality, the God. Now, qualified non-dualism and dualism surface in trying to now explain this world. What do you make of this then? If everything is God, then why is there I and you, this world, this time and space? How do you account for it? It is the dualists there say, well, although God alone is real, this all is manufactured by God, and thus God is the creator, everything else has come out of God. So it is now they are separate. I and you are, I and God are different. But see, the difference is again the independent reality there also is just one without second God. And that God creates all these things out of oneself. So he is not different from God at all. So that is a way of explanation. The main thing is devote to that God. Know God to be your creator, your real nature. You are divine. Like this, the a flower of a tree would also get the name of the same tree. That this is rose. Now rose plant, rose leaf, rose flower, they are all connected. They not really separate. The point that is stressed here is that when a devotee experiences God, all these questions vanish. It is something that is beyond words, beyond philosophy. The qualified non-dualists, they explain it it is all one, but like the tree and its branches, or the body and its different limbs. It is one, but has a little bit of inner difference. That is the qualified non-dualism. And the non-dualists say that this is just appearance. This is the God is one, and that one is again to be remembered. None of the schools say God is one as a numerical entity. Lot of mistake happens here, confusion happens in understanding, because when it is said non-duality, we confuse it with one, a numerical one. That is not at all the case. That what is meant is the whole number idea is transcended. The number one means it is two. You add one and one and it becomes two. So there it is all within the number system. But when God is the creator of that number system also, God is one without second. That is how therefore it is in a way told that there is only one. It appears due to ignorance as many. It is like the ice cubes look different. But inside actually the same one water is there, one substance is there. Just keep in a warm weather for 5 minutes and you will see that all the ice cubes, they are gone, there is just water left there. So that is how the non-dualist position is. But this is all the matter for explaining the world. In explaining the world, this difference of interpretation is actually, as the non-duality, they all are quite unanimous that God alone is the independent reality. There are no two. So Sri Ramakrishna brought about a harmony because for different aspects or different levels of aspirants, the different approaches are necessary. So in the ultimate result of whatever approach you take will be that the divinity, you will come up with the understanding that you are divine.
Second question, Swamiji, from Charles as well. Did the scholars become Thakur's devotees?
In this case, yes. Both Vaishnavacharan and Gauri Pandit both agreed that Sri Ramakrishna is divine incarnation. Let us not jump before we get there. We will cross the bridge when we get there. That will come in due course in this discussion. But the short answer that I am giving now is yes.
The third question from Sucheta Ghule. Has Vairavi Brahmani also experienced ecstasy in her life? How she could understand such problems and give solutions?
Oh, there are two reasons, like a doctor might not actually undergo that disease, but by studying the symptoms can understand that this person is having this disease. It is by knowing the symptoms one can see it even if one hasn't undergone those experiences oneself. Uh, if the physician has to undergo all the diseases to know the sickness of patients, that would be terrible, and nobody would go to the doctor's profession then. What happens here is that you understand these symptoms, you may even see them in some others, and thus come to the conclusion. The second aspect is, yes, Bhairavi Brahmani herself had experienced many divine moods for sure. Yeah. And that is the personal experience is also there. Yeah.
Okay, the next question is from Hima Bindu. When faced with dilemma about an important decision, how to take a right decision? How to choose right path?
Well, that is a very difficult question. We all face dilemma. In fact, Hima Bindu has put a dilemma for me how to answer this question now. It is not easy. No, it is case by case one has to decide. First thing is be calm. That and do not get that into the idea that this is only right and this is wrong. Try to calmly see and let our likes and dislikes not interfere in making a decision. Our likes and dislikes, they hamper our capability to make a proper judgment, because likes and dislikes keep on interfering. Like if it is good for me to do something, to go for my health, to go for jogging is good for me. But if I don't like to do it, then I find out arguments against it, that it is not good, it is I may catch cold, or it is too hot, whatever reasons one may invent for that. So take a decision by abstracting the likes and dislikes. That is what Shankaracharya has advocated, that don't let the likes and dislikes interfere in making a choice. That is the first step. Secondly, another thing that one has to see, that many such things are such that unless you have a crystal ball, you cannot decide. You don't know what future, like you have to think of what stocks to buy and what not to buy. Now, the most expert stock, these brokers or consultants, they also make mistakes there. So it is not a something how to make it. Okay, just think from whatever understanding you have. Consult an expert. Take some the opinion of somebody else also, without blaming them. Don't blame anybody. But then before you take a decision, ask some experts, somebody else, even somebody who is not in that situation will be able to give an advice, because it becomes then an objective perception. So these are some of the ways that one can see that it is the right decision can be arrived at, and then leave, after you have taken all the necessary steps. If things do not happen as you would have wanted them, take it as the God's wish. You took the decision, but it didn't work out. So, well, now that is God's wish. I took all precautions, I studied things, and still it doesn't work out. It didn't work out. So now uh, say that that is God's wish. That's it. There is no sure shot way of making a decision in such some very tricky situations. But these are some of the ways. The most important thing is to remove the likes and dislikes in that matter.
The next question is from Fred Richardson. What is the meaning of Vijnana Vedanta?
Huh?
Vijnana. What
Vig-
is the meaning of Vijnana Vedanta?
Vijnana.
Yeah.
Yes, Vijnana.
In the context of your previous answer to Charles.
Oh, Vijnana. Yes, Vijnana. Sri Ramakrishna would say that Vijnana is the knowledge that is now experiential in terms of examining everything around. The Vijnana is that there is this prefix V, which means special knowledge, Vishesha, special knowledge. Sri Ramakrishna has described it with a great analogy that somebody knows about the milk, has only heard the word milk. Somebody has actually seen milk. And somebody has actually drunk the milk and has experienced the nutritional benefits of it. So that is Vijnana, that last thing, that you know now by experience that everything in the world is God. That is God manifested like this. It is like a pastry is cut into various pieces. Now you eat one piece and then eat another piece looking very different, in appearance different size, because it is cut in different sizes. But then you eat that also, and then you see that they both are actually same. All the pieces are really one and the same. They are not different. So Sri Ramakrishna could by experience see this. This is called Vijnana. That by spiritual disciplines, by practice, one could get that feel of samadhi, the state of samadhi, where this world would disappear. And then you may have the experience of God. But in case of most people, this experience will not last. The body will not be able to take it. The body will fall off. In 21 days, Sri Ramakrishna said, I had discussed the reason for the body would be falling in 21 days in some other time. But now the understanding, their experience is that of jnana, knowledge, not of vijnana, because they have not experienced that same God has become everything. So, same God has become everything. That I sit on the chair, that is God. The one who is sitting on the chair, both are God. So, then the things that I see, they are just God, nothing else. This whole universe is nothing but the play of God. That is what is called Vijnana. So, it cannot be described anymore, friends. Vijnana, Sri Ramakrishna has clarified it many times. That state cannot be much described. So, I tried a little bit, that's all.
The last question is from Chris Bartolota. When Holy Mother talks about Ramakrishna Loka, is she referring to a state of consciousness or an actual loka separate from oneself?
Oh, well, the idea of loka itself is a state of awareness. It is, the loka means not actually a place, it is a place, but every place is because you become aware of it, that's all. Just for example, let me tell that suppose there is a mosquito, then the world of mosquito will be a mosquito loka. It is actually a world, but it is because mosquito is aware of that. Chris Bartolotta will not be in that loka because it is a human being. He is aware of being human. So his world is different from a mosquito's world. It is similarly what happens is when our nerves, our senses, they become finer and finer, our perceptions become different. We go as it were to a different loka. The word in Shankaracharya has given a very beautiful understanding of it, that what is loka? Lokyate iti lokaha means something that is lokyate, drishyate iti lokaha. What you experience, what you see is the loka. So, if you are attuned with Sri Ramakrishna, then you will be in Sri Ramakrishna Loka. If you are attuned with Shiva, then it is Shiva Loka. If you are attuned to Jesus Christ, you will be in the Loka of Jesus. So, that is the meaning of Loka. The idea that it is all imaginary is not correct. It is awareness. That loka is awareness, and that is as real as this place. When your senses become different, it is a different loka. It exists. It exists as this exists. What is the proof of this loka that we are in? It is because we perceive it. Is there any other proof? There is no other proof, friends. So exactly when our understanding based on our awareness changes, then we are transformed to a different loka. As in dream, you are transported to a different loka. It is a different loka. It is equally true as the state of this waking state that you see, because your senses have been transformed. You see different things, that's all. So that is how the idea of loka, it is a deeper idea, one has to really meditate on this. Many ask this question because we are so rooted in our understanding or awareness as I am this body, and as a body whatever I see is that is real and that alone is real. Well, that is real because your senses show that. If your senses are transformed, your awareness of reality gets transformed, which is equally real. It is, that is loka, friends. This one has to feel that this what we are seeing now is entirely dependent on our senses and mind. When they change, we are in a different loka, in That is how the lokas are different. Get attuned to Sri Ramakrishna, and then one will be in Sri Ramakrishna Loka. Okay, then any question from people here? See, all the questions were only from the virtual listeners, real questions from virtual listeners. And real listeners, didn't have any question because they were understanding directly. So, let us conclude with the closing prayer. May the Divine, who is Father in heaven of the Christians, Holy One of the Jewish faith, Allah of the Muslims, Buddha of the Buddhists, Tao of the Taoists, Great Spirit of the Native Americans, Ahura Mazda of the Zoroastrians, and Brahman of the Hindus, lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. May the all-loving being manifest himself unto us and grant us abiding understanding and all-consuming divine love. Peace, peace, peace be unto all.